Good morning, students. How are you? Hope you all are fine and you have studied the previous topic that was based on pH value and pH scale. Okay. So now today we will study about the salts, and you know that salts are formed by the reaction of acids and bases together, and this reaction is known as neutralization reaction. So today we will study about the different types of salts, their uses of salts, how to find the pH value of these salts one by one. Okay. So let's start the first topic, which is family of salts. Family of salts. Okay. Suppose we have given some salts, like suppose we have potassium sulfate. Okay, so what will be the formula for potassium sulfate? Can you tell me? Potassium sulfate, it is K2SO4. Okay, then suppose we have taken the any other salt, that is sodium sulfate. Sodium sulfate. Formula for sodium sulfate is Na2SO4. Then we take calcium sulfate. What is the formula for calcium sulfate? Calcium sulfate is Ca2SO4. Now take any other compound, like you take copper sulfate. Copper sulfate. Formula for copper sulfate is CuSO4. Then take any other salt, like sodium. Suppose we take sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, that is NaCl. Then take sodium sulfate. Sodium sulfate. What is the formula for sodium sulfate? Everyone knows, that is Na2SO4. Then take any other salt, like sodium carbonate. So we can take number of salts. Okay, so that is Na2CO3. So all these salts are there. So now one thing is very special in this, that all these salts are formed by the reaction of some base and some acid. So if we have to find out that which acid and which bases are present in it, so to find out, we will dissolve it in water, and whatever base is formed, it means that base is there, and whatever acid is formed, it means that acid is there. So when you will dissolve potassium sulfate in water, you will get potassium hydroxide and you will get sulfuric acid. It means the base is potassium hydroxide and the acid is sulfuric acid. Same way for sodium sulfate also, you will get sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. Then for calcium sulfate also, you will get calcium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. For copper sulfate, you will get copper hydroxide and sulfuric acid. Now in case of NaCl, you will get sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid. In this case, you will get sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. Then in this case, you will get sodium hydroxide and carbonic acid. So this way you will get different acids and bases by dissolving it in water. Now children, one thing is very common here, like suppose I write NaCl and I write Na2SO4. So what is common here? You can see, everyone can say that sodium is common among both the salts. So whenever any radical, like any positive radical or the negative radical, so here you can see that sodium is the positive radical, or you can say positive ion. Okay, so whenever same type of ions are present in any of 2 or 3 salts, they belong to the same family. So here you can see that sodium chloride and sodium sulfate both contain sodium ion, So that's why they belong to the sodium, they belong to the sodium family. Okay, so we can say that these salts belong for the sodium family. Then suppose I write here NaCl and KCl. What is common here? Cl is there. It means chloride ion is common here. So it means these salts belong to the chloride family. So this way you can find different families. So it's very clear here, this salt belong to the sodium family, this salt belong to the chloride family. Now from here you can find out, from these salts you can find out which families are there. Okay, so you can see that in potassium sulfate, sodium sulfate, calcium sulfate and copper sulfate, everywhere you can see sulfate is there. So what we will say that they belong to the family of sulfate salts. Now here you just carefully observe, here sodium is common. So it means they belong to the sodium family. So this way different families of salts are there. There may be any positive radical may be common or negative radical may be common, and this way family of salts are formed. Now the question arises that how to find the pH value of these salts, or how can we find that whether these salts are acidic or these salts are basic. So for this we can take some example. We can take some salts, we can write the name of different salts. We can take the same salt which we have written, or we can take any other salt. So suppose now your next topic is how to find the pH of salts. pH of salts. Till now you studied about the pH of acids and pH of bases, and today we will study about the pH of salts. So for this we can write the example of some salts, like we can write sodium chloride, NaCl. You can write potassium chloride. You can write sodium carbonate. We can write ammonium chloride. You can any salts you can write zinc sulfate, copper sulfate, many more you can write. Okay, so I have written few salts here. Now suppose someone asks you that whether these salts are acidic or basic. So to find it, it's very simple method, that simply we have to dissolve in distilled water. This you should remember, that the water which you are using for dissolving, it should be distilled water. Okay, so suppose I take NaCl. Okay, so let me find out that NaCl is the acidic salt, basic salt or the neutral salt. Okay, so NaCl plus water, as we dissolve it in water, so plus water, it will give sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid here. And if you carefully observe, you will see that sodium hydroxide is a strong base and hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. So it means the salt which will be formed here, which will be the neutral salt, because here the neutralization reaction will take place, and because of the neutralization reaction, the salt which will be formed here, it will be the neutral salt. So it means this sodium chloride is the neutral salt. Now suppose we take any other example, like you take NH4Cl. Okay, NH4Cl. Okay, and we have to find out that whether ammonium chloride is acidic, basic or neutral salt. So simple method again, we will use distilled water, and then the salt which will be formed here, that the products which will be formed here are hydrochloric acid and NH4OH. So here you can see hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. and NH4OH is a weak base. So base is weak here and acid is strong. It means which type of salt will be formed? Yes, acidic salt will be formed. So it means this salt is acidic in nature. Now suppose you take any other example, like you can take sodium carbonate, Na2CO3. Okay, and we have to find whether it is acidic or basic. So we will dissolve it in distilled water and you will get NaOH plus H2CO3. This H2CO3 is the carbonic acid and NaOH is the sodium hydroxide. So here sodium hydroxide is a strong base and carbonic acid, you know that it is a weak acid. Okay. So here you can see that acid is weak and the base is strong. It means which type of salt will be formed here? This will be the basic salt. So this way you can see different examples. All three examples we have written. The sodium chloride is the neutral salt, ammonium chloride is the acidic salt, and sodium carbonate is the basic salt. So same way we can find out which type of salts are these. And you can take some more examples, that which salt is acidic, which is basic, and which is neutral. So if you find we want to check whether it is acidic, you can dip a litmus paper in it and you will see if acid is there, then blue litmus will turn into red color, and if base is there, then red litmus paper will convert into blue color. And to find the pH value, put a drop of this acid or this salt on the salt after dissolving in water on the pH paper. You will see according to the color you can find the pH value, and not with the help of pH paper only. You can find the pH value with the help of the universal indicator, as we have already discussed. Now the next topic which we have to study is also related to the salts. So let us find out which are the chemicals which we can obtain from the salt. So students, whenever we talk about the salt, immediately we think about NaCl. NaCl, that is sodium chloride. But you know, sodium chloride is actually the common salt, and rest of the these compounds which are obtained by mixing acids and bases are the salts. So now onwards, whenever NaCl is written, you will say that it is the common salt. And this common salt is very, very useful in our life because every day we are using it in our food. Then beside this common salt is also very important in our struggle for freedom. You know that you have heard about the Dandi March, and you know that this common salt was the symbol for the struggle for freedom. So Mahatma Gandhi used this common salt as an important symbol for the struggle for freedom. And now in the next topic we will study about the different chemicals which are obtained from this common salt. So students, this common salt is used as a raw material for many of the materials or the chemical compounds which we use in our daily life. Okay, so let's start one by one, and first of all we will discuss about the chemical which is prepared from this common salt is sodium hydroxide. Okay, so to prepare sodium hydroxide, let's see this arrangement. Here you can see that this is a chamber, and in this we have taken anode. This is positive, this is anode, here this is cathode, and here is a porous membrane so that these ions can move from one part to the other part. Then here there is a inlet, from here the brine solution can be entered. Now what is brine solution? So you know this sodium chloride or this common salt, when dissolved in water, then we say it is a brine. So it means this brine is containing sodium chloride and water, sodium chloride dissolved in water. From here it enters, and then here electricity is passed in this arrangement. When the electricity is passed, then the reaction takes place and then sodium hydroxide is formed, and besides sodium hydroxide, in this chlorine gas is formed and hydrogen gas is also formed as a byproduct. So let's write the reaction. So you can see NaCl, okay? NaCl, what we said, that NaCl is dissolved in water. So NaCl, this is aqueous, it is dissolved in water, that is H2O, and H2O is in the form of liquid here. And then when electricity is passed, then sodium hydroxide is formed here, NaOH, plus chlorine plus hydrogen. All hydrogen and chlorine are in the form of gas, and NaOH is in the form of liquid here, aqueous. Okay, and this way this reaction takes place in this. So whenever sodium hydroxide has to be prepared, what we do is that electricity is passed in a brine. And what is brine? Brine is then aqueous solution of sodium chloride, that is common salt. So when electricity is passed, then sodium hydroxide is formed, chlorine gas is formed, and hydrogen gas is formed. So as you can see here, that sodium hydroxide is formed, it is a base. Chlorine gas is formed, it is a gas which is, that is chlorine. So that's why the name of this process is given as chlor-alkali process. What is the name? Chlor-alkali process. So suppose the question comes in your exam, what is chlor-alkali process? So you should understand that this same reaction is known as the chlor-alkali. So this whole process is known as chlor-alkali process, and in this again I am telling you that we will pass electricity in a brine, and brine, what is brine? Brine is a aqueous solution of sodium chloride, okay, and then we will get sodium hydroxide, chlorine and hydrogen gas. Now one thing is very important here, that this chlorine gas, as it contains negative charge, so it is in this, the ions which are formed, they are negative ions. So always this chlorine gas is collected near the anode, and hydrogen gas is collected near the cathode, okay, and the sodium hydroxide which is formed here, it is collected, the sodium hydroxide is formed near the cathode. So here you can see the sodium hydroxide will be collected this side, okay. Then you can see the arrangement here clearly. Brine is entering from here, and then here the solution which we are getting, brine containing sodium hydroxide. This sodium hydroxide we can collect from here. Now one thing is very special in this arrangement, that you can see that hydrogen gas and chlorine gas are formed, and you know these are formed as the byproduct, and they are very, very useful for us. Like we can discuss some of the uses, like this hydrogen gas. This hydrogen gas is used as a fuse, you all know. Then margarine. Now you will ask, what is margarine? Margarine is a type of butter, okay, a substitute for a butter. Then ammonia for fertilizer. So it can be asked in your exam, write some uses of hydrogen gas. So you can write these uses. Then comes the chlorine gas. Chlorine gas, you know that it is used as a water treatment for swimming pools. In swimming pools it is poured there so that it cleans the water. Then it is also obtained to prepare PVC. What is PVC? PVC are the pipes polyvinyl chloride. Chloride is there, so that chlorine is obtained from this here only. Then disinfectant, it is used as a disinfectant. Chlorofluorocarbon, CFC, this you know. Then pesticides. So there are various uses of chlorine gas here. Now here you can see that sodium hydroxide is formed here. This NaOH is here and from here it can be collected. So sodium hydroxide also has a very important use, like it can be used in degreasing metals. Okay, then it is also used in the preparation of soaps and detergents, which you will study in the next chapter. Then you will this sodium hydroxide is also used in making synthetic fibers. Okay, you studied in the previous classes that sodium hydroxide is used in the preparation of the synthetic fibers, and beside this it is also used in paper making. So these are some of the uses. So I think you understood everything, and remember that this process is known as chlor-alkali process. Don't forget this, and this reaction also you have to remember because it is one of the important reaction for your exam. So in the next topic we will study about the preparation, properties and uses some other chemicals which are obtained by these byproducts chlorine and hydrogen as well as sodium hydroxide.